The Peanut Corporation of America, or PCA, was founded on February 15, 2001, in Blakely, Georgia, under the name Casey's Food Products Inc. Later on, it was acquired by Stuart Parnell, who changed the name to Peanut Corporation of America and moved their headquarters to Lynchburg, Virginia. By 2007, it was one of the largest peanut product companies in the U.S. I thought I would say this sentence, making 2.5% of all peanut products in America, and with over 90 employees and an annual revenue of $25 million. What could possibly go wrong for them? On June 19, 2003, the manager of interim operations at PCA's Blakely location would send a fax to Daniel Kilgore, who is the operations manager of the Blakely location. It said to substitute the Chinese extra-large peanuts with blanched jumbo runners at shipping for customers without notifying their customers, and these instructions would come saying, per Stewart. Then for 2 years, from September of 2004 to September of 2006, Stuart Parnell and Daniel Kilgore would have peanuts shipped to customers and retailers despite not getting microbiological tests back. After getting these tests back, Samuel Lightsey and Daniel Kilgore would start fabricating certificates of analysis, or COAs, with the shipments of peanut products that were being shipped out. COAs are essentially documents that show the results of laboratory tests for pathogens within the food. Parnell, Kilgore, and Lightsey would end up fabricating multiple of these COAs for shipments of peanuts that either were not tested or had been tested positive for the pathogens. They also lied and misled FDA officials who were investigating the plants and were questioning the standards and safety in it. I assume that, much like in the Lorax, Parnell and the others thought that they couldn't be that bad. However, unlike the Lorax, it wouldn't be the trees that they would kill. On October 5, 2006, Stuart Parnell had been informed that one of their customers had tested positive for salmonella from a batch that initially had been positive for pathogens when PCA tested it, but they had the batch shipped anyways. Parnell then sent an email to the customer saying that he was incredibly surprised at the fact that they were positive for salmonella, despite Parnell finding not even traces of salmonella during their own tests. On November 16th, Michael Parnell, who was Stewart's brother and the vice president of PP Sales, the food broker who made sales for PCA, told Stewart that they could fake a COA if needed. On March 8, 2007, Stewart sent an email to a customer saying that they ran countless tests and found no trace of salmonella after hearing that a lot of product had been tested positive for the disease back in September of 2006. 6 days later, on March 14th, Stewart would send another email which essentially read the same message, that they had found no traces of salmonella in their peanuts. A week later, on the 21st, Stewart was told that tests for a lot of product was not available, and as such they had to delay shipment. He would send an email which read, "Shit, just ship it. I cannot afford to lose another customer." On April 12th, a PCA official would send an email to the national sales manager about the totes from the peanut meal, saying they need to hose off the top though because they're covered in dust and rat crap. Stewart would receive the email and respond with, "Clean them all up and ship them." Jumping to March of 2008, Mary Wilkerson was promoted to quality insurance. I'm sure this will change things at the plants then, right? On March 26, Daniel Kilgore would send an email to the Parnell brothers about peanut paste testing, saying that they should use a smaller sample size and hope no one catches them. On June 6, Stewart would send an email to employees about the retesting of a batch that was positive, in which he said, "I go through this about once a week. I will hold my breath again." In July, Lightsey would take over operations manager from Kilgore, and on September 2nd, he was given the green light to send a batch of product that had not been properly tested, as the customer did not require a COA. 4 days later, on the 6th, the first victim of the 2008 to 2009 salmonella outbreak would fall ill from food poisoning linked to salmonella in PCA products. On November 10th, the CDC would detect an outbreak of Salmonella typhimurium, identifying a cluster of 13 cases across 12 states. 2 weeks later, the CDC would identify a second cluster of 27 cases across 14 states. It's important to note that from February to December of 2008, PCA had sent 13 batches of products with fake COAs, and from February of 2008 to January of 2009, PCA attempted to introduce products which they knew were adulterated or inferior, into commerce about 20 times. On January 3rd and 4th, the CEC pinpointed peanut butter as the most likely source of the salmonella outbreak. And it's here where things start to get really bad for everybody. On January 9th, the Minnesota Department of Health would isolate salmonella from an open container of King Nut peanut butter, and the FDA would launch an investigation into PCA's Blakely plant, where the nut butter was being produced. 4 days later, PCA would issue a recall for some lots of potentially contaminated peanut butter. 3 days later, they would expand the recall to include peanut butter produced on or after July 1st, 2008, and peanut paste made on or after September 26, 2008. 5 days later, PCA would expand their recall again to peanut butter and peanut paste produced from their Blakely plant on or after July 1st, 2008. On January 21st, the FDA would start an investigation into PCA's processing plant in Plainview, Texas. A week after that, PCA would expand their recall a third time, good God, to include all products from the Blakely plant since January 1st, 2007. On February 2nd, the FDA would reveal that PCA had shipped product before they received positive tests from 2007 to 2009. On the 12th of February, Texas ordered the Plainview plant to halt production and recall all product from January 1st, 2007. And by now, PCA had recalled over 3,600 products. 2 days later, on February 14th, PCA files for Chapter 7 bankruptcy and begins liquidation. And on February 20th, PCA would tell customers that they needed to cease sales of product from PCA's Texas and Georgia plants. And finally, in April of 2009, the salmonella outbreak was finally over, with at least 714 sickened and 9 dead over 47 states. But the story doesn't end there. After all, with a scandal that large, there's going to be some sort of legal trouble. On February 20th, 2009, Stuart Parnell would appear under a subpoena before the House Energy and Commerce Subcommittee, where he would invoke his Fifth Amendment right and refuse to testify. On August 26, 2010, a federal judge would award $12 million to victims of the outbreak from the now-defunct company. On October 24, 2012, the grand jury subpoenas a female who remains anonymous and was a PCA official. On February 11, 2013, former operations manager at the Blakely plant, Daniel Kilgore, would plead guilty to 1 count of conspiracy to introduce adulterated and misbranded food into interstate commerce, 8 counts of introducing adulterated food into interstate commerce with the intent to defraud, 6 counts of introducing misbranded food into interstate commerce with the intent to defraud, 8 counts of interstate shipment fraud, and 5 counts of wire fraud. Basically, he pled guilty to 28 counts of fraud. 10 days later, on the 21st, the Justice Department would file an indictment of 76 counts of former PCA officials, including Stuart and Michael Parnell, Samuel Lightsey, and Mary Wilkerson. And finally, to end all of this stupidity, in September of 2015, they would find both of the Parnell brothers guilty on 76 counts, and Stuart Parnell was given 28 years in prison, Michael Parnell was given 20 years, and Mary Wilkerson was given 5 years. And thus, putting an end to these peanut shenanigans. While this was not the first time a scandal involving the food industry would happen, and sadly not the last, this would be the first time in U.S. history that corporate officials were given federally criminal charges because they were shipping out food that was known to have contained salmonella. As such, though we still have food scandals after this, we have never seen anything this bad since, which is good, considering the scandal left at least 9 people dead and 714 more ill. Still, it isn't the last time this has happened, and I hope to bring light to some of the more lesser-known cases as well. And that ends the basic summary of the PCA, or Peanut Corporation of America, scandal.